Good afternoon, everyone. My presentation, as Sharona said, is got diversity, got innovation, and you may not necessarily think those two words go together. And when we talk about diversity, we often see or visualize different things. What are some of the things that we usually will visualize? One of those may be a lot of different people holding hands, getting along. And another might be, maybe I'll get displaced. If there's more diversity in the workplace, does that mean that I will no longer be a part of it? So some see it as inclusion. Some see it as exclusion. So how do we get past that mindset? And how do we get to the point of not only valuing, managing, promoting diversity in a way that we yield the business result of innovation? I've listed here a quote from Steve Jobs, who is the co-founder, chairman of the board, and the former of Apple Incorporated. And he says, the source of wealth and capital in this is not material things. It is the human mind, the human spirit, the human imagination, faith in the future. The greatest resource any business have is the human resource. It's the employees of that particular organization. And how do we best utilize, how do we best capitalize on that valuable resource? When we talk about relationships in a social context or even in a business context, one of the words that comes together, and you see this a lot in social media, is explicated. What we anticipate may or may not be realized. The other individual assuming the relationship or the expectations for their job, they may not be realized. And so we have a lot of dissonance and a lot of confusion and a lot of frustration. Yet it's still to understand what the bottom line is, understand where the value lies, and under how to actually realize that within your organization. The relationship of diversity to innovation is that it is a very valuable source of innovation. Diverse workforce is a valuable source of innovation. And if you've ever done the icebreaker where you're asked to come up with as many ways as you can to figure out how to utilize a paper clip and then you're put in a group of individuals and you do the same activity again. You see people together, bringing a team together, you get more ideas, you get more synergy, and possibly even better solutions. Usually you'll get better solutions. So in your workplace, you do want to bring together a diversity of talent. And that talent can be in a lot of different ways. It could be diversity, it could be gender diversity, age diversity, diversity of talents. It is necessary to be able to utilize that great wealth of diversity that is out there. And what is one of the reasons you would want to do that? Typically, you want to increase your profit share, your bottom line. And the way to that is to get more customers who value and will buy your products and services. And when you're looking at more customers, you're looking at a broad spectrum. So how do you appeal to, how do you target, how do you market more diverse customer base? If you have employees who represent that diversity of the customer base you're targeting, then you will probably have a much better opportunity to develop strategies that will be more effective. An inclusive culture is an incubator for innovation. We've all done brainstorming activities and we've thrown out ideas that we're not supposed to evaluate yet. A part of our cultural norm is to evaluate those, throw them out, we want to say, this doesn't make any sense. We're not even going to consider it. However, if you truly get into the brainstorming at its best, you don't throw those ideas out. You keep them all there, and then you take a second look. You revisit those ideas and see how they can be transformed into workable solutions. And when you're working with a very diverse workforce, there may be ideas thrown out that you've never heard before, or that you don't know, that are not a part of your cultural reality. So it's important to be willing to be open and listen and ask questions in order to see how collectively you can work toward a solution that will result in an innovative product or service, and subsequently increase profits for your business. And of course, I've already said this, but it bears repeating again, is that a diverse workforce really more closely represents the diverse local, regional, and global marketplace. So in order to really have a better sense of what the market wants, you should have an employee-based workforce that reflects that same level of diversity, if at all possible. So what does an inclusive environment look like? Let's say we all want it, but how do we get it? Donald Fan wrote an article just recently on the diversity management website, and what he's identified as 4 key characteristics. The first one is belief, trusting in ease, and that's actually a lot more difficult than what it sounds like, because we use our own cultural language to evaluate ideas, and may, without even thinking about it, have a negative reaction to what we hear, what we see, just based on what we're used to within our own cultural identities and actual business identities. And being able to trust your employee and hear out idea, and it doesn't to accept it, you can ask that employee, how will you could play devil advocate, and will it work in particular, in this particular way or method? And not to pass judgment on idea, because get back to we want to evaluate the idea. We want to play it out if we can actually transform it into something that will be workable for us. And then also empowering your employees. And of course, a lot of people have a different idea of what empowering means. Empowering doesn't mean that you have the same level of authority as your superior, but that you do have authority over certain types of business actions. There may be some cases where you can make the decision. There may be some cases where you make a recommendation and in your boss decision. And then there may be instances where it solely relies on your superior. So being more clear about the levels of empowerment, and in all possible ways, really promote levels of organization. Attitude, respect, discussion, collaboration, and diversity of thought. So of course goes back to even the first, where you're more open to hearing ideas different than yours. Knowledge, creative thinking, problem solving, and seizing opportunity. When you create an environment where the employees allow to create and come up ideas and solutions, it really provides an opportunity. It's really our innovation. And behavior, valuing and leveraging differences. If everybody looked like me, thought like me, talked like me, somebody is unnecessary. You do not want to surround yourself with people who are exactly like yourself. You want to surround yourself with individuals who think differently. And one of the reasons for that is not only just to get new ideas, but also validate or possibly refute some of the hypotheses that you may have. What you want to do may be very limiting. It may be effective in one very line of the market, whereas what someone else wants to do or suggest may be much more expensive. So being able to be open to other ideas is extremely important. Dr. Ronald Byrd, who's a professor of sociology and strategy at the University of Chicago, actually did an empirical study to show that employees who had internal to the organization a more diverse level of connections, actually interacting with a more diverse workforce, came up with more solutions, more ideas, and even better effective solutions to problems with a supply chain management organization. So looking at this particular graph, see on the vertical axis is the ideas that were presented by the employees, with worse being at the low end and better being at the high end. And then for the horizontal axis, what you see is the number of connections that the individual had, the level of diverse connections that they had within the workplace, more being at on the left end and less being at the right end. If you look on the left end of the horizontal axis and at the high end, the vertical axis, you can see that those employees with the more diverse connections really came up with the more ideas, so more effective. Innovation, according to Fan, is critical to sustaining organic growth, and an organization or a corporation is not a static entity. It's a living, breathing entity. It's going to change over time based on many things, based on governmental legislation, based on market demand, and even based on actions of the products or services that are provided. Innovation is necessary in order to respond in a positive way to the many change impacts that happen within a company. And it's also critical to securing success in the face of global competition. It used to be we only had competition within maybe a 10 to 100 mile perimeter of where we were located. However, now there's the ability to market your products and services globally. So you may not ever see your competitor, but you need to be able to respond effectively so that your customers will stay loyal to you. What I have listed here, Diversity Inc. for 11 years have come up with top 50 companies who value diversity. Listed here, top 20. Some of these companies you may recognize. If you look the list over the years, what you'll see here is some of the same names, and I'll point out is Ernst & Young, IBM Corporation, Marriott International, Merck & Company. And then you'll see some new names that were not there from previous years. What's new this year as well is they've come up with some unique diversity management achievements. And so they've identified various companies that were at the very top of their category in terms of executive development, talent pipeline, employee resource groups, and working families. So there's a lot of ways that we can promote and value diversity within the organizations that we work in or manage. And these are identified by that particular Diversity Inc. survey. The methodology used in order to assess the companies, and it's not a subjective or qualitative survey. They use quantitative assessments. They look at CEO commitment to diversity, human capital, and that means the diversity levels within the organization, not just at the lower levels of the organization, but the executive and even CEO or the direct reports to the CEO. Corporate and organizational communications. And this means that your communications within your organization as well as outside of the organization really demonstrate your commitment to diversity. It could be the images that you have in your brochures and marketing materials. It's also the communications within your employee base as to what positions are available and how you reward and recognize departments that really promote and reach their diversity goals. And then something they added maybe about 4 or 5 years ago is supplier diversity. And I think this is very important as well, is who do you buy from? Who you sell to, who you employ, but also who do you buy from? How diverse is that particular subset? Now, every company who is in the top 50 doesn't stay in the top 50. So what would cause a company to go down? And I think this is real important in dissecting your company, whether or not you're poised to really move into that, the cream of the cream, so to speak, of those who promote diversity. One of those issues is CEO commitment. If the CEO is not directly involved in diversity management, it is sending a message to the organization. If he doesn't value diversity or she doesn't value diversity, then it's not really that important. Failure to consistently communicate, either within or or outside of the organization, diversity is essential to the business. It's not enough just to have a diversity goal and attempt to meet that, but what is the message sending out to your employees, to your executives, your managers, your department managers, your direct reports as it relates to diversity goals? You're not doing it because it's the right thing to do or the ethical thing to do. You're doing it because it makes business sense to do this. Although there are some CEOs who are doing it because it's the ethical thing to do and because they do increase their profit share. CEO does not hold the senior executives accountable. So if individuals who are in management position, if their feet are not held to the fire to meet those diversity goals, then the message you're sending, of course, again, is that that's not really within your organization. A strong chief diversity officer. It's not enough just to appoint a person. You want to appoint someone who understands not only the value of meeting diversity goals, but has the expertise to move the company toward that. And then lack of supplier diversity. When you get lack of CEO commitment, in every company that was listed in the top 50 for the total 11 years that Diversity Inc. has done this assessment, this survey, each company had a CEO commitment to improvement of diversity management efforts and human capital results. Lack of diversity in top level and reports, and just small diversity in next two levels will also result in the company dropping the top 50. Lack of interaction with employee resource groups, and that's a very important strategy for achieving your goal. Lack of focus, recognition, and reward for meeting and exceeding your diversity goals. Why these roles? The key issues here are mentoring and employee resource groups, opening those up to all employees. Mentoring needs to be individual, group, and virtual. And those at the senior level, the CEOs need to be actively involved in those employee resource groups and the mentoring programs. So in wrapping up, some final thoughts, just to pull all of this together, is that if you're committed to diversity, if you want to improve your diversity goals, what you need to do is assess the organization's level of inclusiveness, develop inclusiveness goals with timelines, communication strategy, means of reward and recognition, develop organizational strategies to achieve your inclusiveness goals, and then you want to review, revise as needed. Thank you very much.